from one of our participants today, from Dr. Dialen. Yeah. So good morning, Prof. Thank you so much for the talk. With more and more investment schemes and the rising cost of living, so Dr. Dialen would like to seek advice from Prof regarding what is your advice on investment, and in terms of emotional based financial risk, does a financial manager remove that bias, or would you advise picking up that skill for ourselves? Thank you.
Okay. Uh, Thank you, Dr. Ganison, for your question. Actually, you're not the first one to ask me to ask this kind of questions, and those two are very, very good questions because it is really kind of I mean the story of Sir Isaac Newton is kind of sad, right? But it had happened, throughout history, and I can quote. Maybe I shouldn't reveal their names, but I have friends who were also trapped in that kind of a situation. So I have many advice on investment, of course, but I think generally speaking, what you want to do is when it comes to investment, rule number one is you have to know what you are investing in. That's the first thing. You don't have to be a specialist, but you must know at least what you are investing in. You have to know where the returns coming from. You know, um, for example, in the South Sea Company, I know it's kind of hard. When people, a financial advisor comes to you and say like, oh, okay, you invest in this much of sum of money, but we're going to invest it in this place and that place, and therefore you could get some return. So my advice would be don't go for something that is unheard of, something that an investment scheme, the sources of returns of which you're not too sure where it's coming from. So just be boring, just be a boring kind of investor, and you will be safe. Now, of course, people will say like, oh, okay, kalau if I stick to that, right? So if I just put in money in boring investment scheme or boring financial instrument, then my return will be generally low. Well, I think given the fact that most people are not specialists, in the investment business, I think it's a lot safer for you to go and invest in something which inverted comma we call safe, as I said earlier. So that's very important. And of course, my third advice on investment is like, if you're not too sure, get somebody trusted. Don't trust your financial advisor. Okay. The reason for that is uh, he makes money when you agree to invest in his scheme, right? So, I mean, he has that inherent conflict of interest. So, of course, if you ask for his advice, he will say like, of course, this is a good investment. Otherwise, he wouldn't go to you in the first place, right? So, what I mean by getting good advice is get an honest advice from people who know a bit more about investment than you do, and of course, do not listen to people who have some conflict of interest in getting you to invest in certain things, right? Um, um, now, question number two, I think I've already kind of alluded to it. No, you will not be able to remove the bias because of that conflict of interest. Now, having said that, I must say, like, I'm not suggesting like, because we know like emotions play a role in decision making, therefore you should try. We should not have emotion in in making decision, because it's just impossible. However, you could insulate yourself in a way, or minimize the risk of making wrong investment by making sure that you keep that emotional part as much as possible at bay. So I think that's the point that I'm trying to make here. Okay, terima kasih.
Thank you, Dato. So I think those are very good advices for us, especially doctors. So we sometimes we tend to make not so good financial decisions just based on one biased opinion, especially the financial advisors. Yeah, they come and hunt for us. So thank you, Dato. So I think that is the time that we have for the first talk. We'll be moving on to the second talk now.